Imagine for a moment that you are a force of nature. You are not a beggar at the gates of another's affection. You are a sovereign individual. If you wish to send a message that will make a man yearn for you, it cannot be a desperate plea. It must be a whisper of power, a reminder of what once was or what could have been. The first thing you must understand is this: absence is the foundation of longing. If you flood a man's life with your presence, he will not value you. But if you retreat, if you cultivate your own world, your own success, your own quiet confidence, then, and only then, will he feel your absence like a void in his chest. So what is the perfect text? It is one that subtly ignites his memory, his curiosity, and his regret. It is not a question, it is a statement. A message such as, "I heard a song today that reminded me of you. I hope you're doing well." This is not a cry for attention. It is a key, unlocking the corridors of his mind where your presence once lived. He will ask himself, what song? What memory? Why is she thinking of me now? And more importantly, he will feel the weight of what he no longer has. But the text alone is not enough. If you send it from a place of weakness, he will sense it. If you send it while still orbiting his existence, it will fail. You must be the woman who has already moved on, who does not need him, but who chooses for a fleeting moment to remind him of your presence. And this is where many fail. They believe love is about chasing, about proving one's worth through constant validation. But in reality, love, true, magnetic love, is about becoming someone so valuable that others cannot help but miss you. So send the message, then step back. Let the silence do the work. Let the absence create the longing. And most importantly, ensure that by the time he does miss you, you have become someone even greater than he remembers. To craft a message that makes someone miss you, you must first understand the nature of human attraction and attachment. At the core of this is the idea that people value what they cannot fully grasp, what is just out of reach, what is slightly elusive. We are wired to pursue things that hold meaning for us, but are not always readily available. This is why luxury brands limit their availability, why great art often exists in scarcity, and why the things that slip through our fingers remain the most memorable. If you wish to make someone feel your absence, your message cannot be one of desperation or pleading. It must come from a place of mastery over chaos, an internal stability that communicates self-worth and confidence. Too often, people send messages fueled by fear. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of losing relevance, the fear of being replaced. But fear is not attractive, it is repellent. What draws people in is certainty, a sense of purpose, an individual who is so complete in themselves that their presence is an honor rather than a plea for connection. Consider this: in the moments before you send a message to someone you want to miss you, what is your emotional state? Are you anxious, eager for a response, hoping for validation? If so, you must pause, because the energy with which you send that message is the energy with which it will be received. If your words carry the weight of insecurity, the recipient will sense it. They may not be able to articulate why, but they will instinctively feel less drawn to respond. However, if your message carries the weight of someone who has mastered their own reality, who is whole and at peace, then it will land differently. It will be received with curiosity, admiration, and even longing. Mastery over chaos means that you are not seeking a reaction. You are merely existing in such a way that compels a reaction. The perfect message, the one that makes someone miss you, is not designed to force an outcome. It is designed to awaken something dormant within the other person. And the only way to do this effectively is to ensure that your life is already full, that your identity is intact, that your happiness does not hinge on a single response. Imagine you send a simple text: "I heard a song today that reminded me of you. Hope you're doing well." On the surface, this seems like a harmless, casual message, but beneath it, if done correctly, there is immense power. You have not asked a question, you have not demanded attention, you have not signaled desperation. Instead, you have subtly implanted a thought, a seed of memory, into the mind of the recipient. Now they must wonder, what song? What memory? Why is she thinking of me now? The moment they begin to ask these questions, they have already fallen into the gravitational pull of curiosity. And curiosity breeds longing. But here is the most crucial part. If this message is not backed by true self-assurance, if it is sent from a place of hoping to rekindle something out of lack rather than out of abundance, it will fail, because the energy behind it will betray you. Words are not enough. They must be backed by truth. If you send a message like this while still obsessively checking your phone, waiting for a reply, rearranging your schedule to accommodate a response, then you are still operating from chaos, not mastery. True mastery over chaos means you send that message and then walk away. You go about your life as though nothing depends on the outcome, because in reality, nothing should. You must be so deeply immersed in your own growth, in your own self-improvement, that whether or not this person responds is merely an afterthought. And paradoxically, it is this very mindset that will make them more likely to respond. People are drawn to those who do not need them, but who choose them. To embody this, you must shift your focus inward. What are you doing to cultivate your own life? Have you built a life so fulfilling that someone else would want to be a part of it? If not, then that must become your priority. Because when you reach the point where you genuinely do not need a specific response, where you are truly at peace regardless of the outcome, then and only then will your words carry the weight necessary to make someone miss you. In the end, it is never just about the text. It is about who you are when you send it. It is about the energy you project, the life you lead, the confidence you exude. If you can master yourself, if you can become a person who stands firmly in their own value, then anyone who has ever been close to you will feel your absence when you are gone. Not because of what you said, but because of who you are. Longing is born from distance. The things we chase seem to run further from us, while the things we withdraw from often pursue us. This is a fundamental truth of human psychology, one that is played out in relationships, friendships, and even in the way people value material possessions. The moment something is too available, too accessible, it loses its sense of importance. We have all seen this play out in our own lives. When we are constantly in someone's presence, reaching out, making ourselves known, our value diminishes in their eyes. Not because we have inherently changed, but because we have removed the mystery, the space in which desire grows. If you want someone to miss you, you must first give them the opportunity to do so. This means creating distance, not as a game, not as manipulation, but as a natural extension of self-respect. If you are always present, always the first to text, always responding immediately, you have denied the other person the essential human experience of absence. And without absence, there can be no longing. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, you are in constant contact with someone, responding instantly, always available at their convenience. There is no moment in which they feel your loss because you have never given them the opportunity to feel it. In the second, you deliberately create space, not as a strategy, but as a reflection of your own full life. You are engaged in your passions, your work, your friendships, and your own personal growth. You do not need to be in their orbit at all times because your world is already complete. In this scenario, when you do reach out, your presence is meaningful, not expected. The contrast between absence and presence gives weight to your interactions. People do not miss what has never left. This is why scarcity is such a powerful force, not just in relationships, but in every aspect of life. The rarest experiences, the fleeting moments, the things that come and go unpredictably, these are the things that stay in our minds. The same principle applies to human connection. When you remove yourself from a situation, you give the other person space to reflect on what your presence meant in the first place. But this is where many fail. They believe creating distance means ignoring someone or playing mind games. This is not about manipulation. It is about understanding that your presence should be a privilege, not a given. If you are always at someone's disposal, always the one to initiate, always chasing, you are signaling that your time and attention require no effort to earn, and what costs nothing is often valued accordingly. The challenge for many is the fear that distance will cause someone to forget them. They worry that if they step back, the connection will fade. But the reality is quite the opposite. When something is ever present, we stop noticing it. It blends into the background, but the moment it is gone, we become acutely aware of its absence. We start to realize what it brought into our lives, how it shaped our experiences, how different things feel without it. This is why the most powerful message you can send is often no message. Silence speaks louder than words because it forces the other person to fill in the gaps. It makes them wonder, question, and ultimately remember. It is not an act of cruelty or manipulation. It is the simple act of stepping back and allowing them to come to their own realization. If your presence was meaningful, your absence will be felt. This does not mean you should disappear entirely or engage in calculated delays in responding. It means you must have a life so full, so engaging, that your attention is not something given lightly. When you do reach out, it should come from a place of genuine interest, not need. And when you do not reach out, it should not be because you are waiting for them to notice. It should be because you are busy living a life that does not revolve around their validation. There is a reason why people tend to miss others more when they are no longer readily available. It is the contrast, the sudden lack of what was once consistent, that makes them realize what they had. This is why nostalgia exists. It is not that the past was necessarily better, it is that it is no longer within reach. The same principle applies here. When you step back, you create the conditions for someone to realize what they had in you. But this only works if, when they do look back, they see something of value. If your presence was ordinary, if it was filled with neediness rather than confidence, if it was built on chasing rather than being chased, then absence will not create longing, it will create relief. This is why absence alone is not enough. You must ensure that what you are withdrawing is something worth missing. In the end, making someone miss you is not about manipulation or strategy. It is about understanding human nature and recognizing that people value what they do not always have access to. If you want someone to long for you, you must give them space to do so. You must step back, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your own self-worth. And in doing so, you will find that those who truly value you will seek you out, not because you forced them to, but because they realized on their own that your presence is something they cannot afford to lose. Emotions are the driving force behind human memory and attachment. People do not remember facts or events in isolation. They remember how those moments made them feel. If you want someone to miss you, you must ensure that your presence in their life was tied to deep emotional experiences. This is not about logic. It is not about rational explanations of why you were good together. It is about the feelings that linger long after a conversation has ended, the way your presence left an imprint on their subconscious, the way your absence creates a void they cannot easily fill. At the heart of this is the concept of emotional anchors. These are the moments in life that strike so deeply that they become part of a person's psychological landscape. A scent, a song, a specific phrase, these can instantly transport someone back to a time and place where emotions ran high. If you want to make someone miss you, you must activate these emotional anchors. Your message must not be a mere collection of words. It must be a trigger, a doorway that leads them back into a feeling they once had when they were with you. Imagine two scenarios. In the first, you send a generic message like, "Hey, how have you been?" While polite, this message does nothing to stir emotion. It does not stand out from any other interaction they might have throughout the day. It is neutral, easy to forget, and easy to ignore. In the second scenario, you send something far more specific. "I saw someone today drinking coffee the way you always do, black with exactly 3 sugars. It made me smile." Suddenly, this is not just a message. It is a reminder of something unique, something only the two of you shared. It is not just words on a screen. It is a portal into the past, into a moment where they felt understood, seen, and appreciated. Why does this work? Because it taps into something real. It is not manipulative. It is reflective. It shows that their presence in your life mattered, that they were not just another face in the crowd. And in doing so, it subtly forces them to acknowledge the same. They must now consider, did she really remember that detail about me? Did I mean that much to her? This realization alone is powerful because once someone begins reminiscing, they start to miss not just the memory, but the person who shared it with them. But emotional anchors do not just come from nostalgia. They also emerge from admiration and inspiration. If during your time together you evoked feelings of admiration, if you pushed them to be better, if you helped them see the world differently, then your presence is irreplaceable. People miss those who made them feel something profound, who challenged them, who brought out parts of themselves they did not even realize existed. If your time together was filled with excitement, intellectual stimulation, or deep personal growth, then your absence is not just a missing person, it is a missing force, a missing energy that they struggle to find elsewhere. This is why people often long for the relationships that were not just comfortable, but transform. We do not miss those who simply existed beside us. We miss those who awaken something inside us. So when you craft your message, it must not be a casual check-in. It must not be something that could have been sent to anyone. It must be something that reminds them of what you brought into their life that no one else did. Another powerful way to invoke emotional anchors is through curiosity. The best messages do not just bring back memories. They leave questions unanswered. "I saw something today that made me think of you. I wonder if you'd still react the same way." Now their mind is actively engaged. What did she see? Why does she wonder how I'd react? This small amount of ambiguity forces them to dwell on the message longer than they normally would. And in that dwelling, in that space of wondering, missing begins to take hold. This is why movies, songs, and books that leave things open-ended tend to linger in people's minds far longer than those that resolve every conflict neatly. The human brain is wired to complete unfinished stories, to solve unanswered questions. If your message presents an emotional anchor with just enough mystery, you have created something that will echo in their mind long after they have read it. But for this to work, it must be genuine. If you are forcing nostalgia, if you are trying too hard to trigger an emotional response, it will come across as calculated rather than authentic. You must actually have these emotional anchors within yourself. You must genuinely feel the nostalgia, the admiration, the curiosity. People are highly attuned to authenticity. They may not consciously recognize it, but they can feel when something is real and when it is simply an attempt to elicit a reaction. This is why your message must be crafted from a place of truth. If you truly miss someone, if they truly impacted you, then your words will carry the weight of that experience. And if your time together was meaningful, then that weight will be felt on the other side of the conversation as well. At its core, making someone miss you is not about forcing an emotion onto them. It is about reminding them of the emotions that already existed. It is about guiding them back to the moments that mattered, the experiences that shaped them, the connection that was once undeniable. If you can do that, then your presence will not just be remembered, it will be longed for. And in that longing, missing turns into a desire to reconnect. If your goal is to make someone miss you, it must come from a place of self-respect, not neediness. Too often people believe that longing and attachment can be forced, that if they say the right words, create the right absence, or play the right game, they can manufacture desire. But this is a mistake. True longing is not something that can be manipulated. It is something that arises naturally when a person recognizes, consciously or unconsciously, that they have lost something of great value. And the only way to ensure that you are someone worth missing is to first ensure that you are whole on your own. Many people enter relationships or pursue others with the underlying belief that their value comes from being chosen. They seek external validation, measuring their worth based on how much attention they receive. But this approach places power in the hands of others, making them dependent on someone else's recognition. The result is often the opposite of what they desire. When a person senses that they are being pursued out of need rather than genuine mutual admiration, they instinctively withdraw. No one is drawn to desperation. People are drawn to strength. The key then is to cultivate a life so full, so rich, and so meaningful that your presence in someone's life is a gift, not a request. When you approach relationships from a place of self-sufficiency, you do not need to play games to be missed. Your absence will be felt naturally because what you offer is rare. People do not long for those who were simply there. They long for those who brought something unique, something irreplaceable. Consider the people you have missed in your own life. They were not just placeholders. They were individuals who added depth to your world, who challenged you, who inspired you. They were the people who had passions, who had purpose, who had an undeniable sense of self. These are the people we remember, the ones who leave an imprint. If you want to be someone who is truly missed, you must become one of them. This means shifting your focus inward. Instead of asking, how can I make him miss me? The real question should be, how can I become someone so valuable that my absence is felt? The answer is not found in text messages or strategies. It is found in the way you live your life. Are you pursuing your passions? Are you continuously learning and growing? Are you surrounding yourself with people who uplift and inspire you? Are you setting goals and working towards them? When you cultivate a strong sense of self, everything about you shifts. Your energy, your confidence, your ability to command respect, and this shift is felt by others. A person who is content and fulfilled does not need to beg for attention. Their very presence is magnetic. Their absence is notable not because they forced it to be, but because they naturally occupied a space that cannot be easily replaced. This is why chasing someone or overextending yourself is always counterproductive. The moment you seek validation from another person, you give them the power to define your worth. And in doing so, you lessen the very qualities that make you desirable in the first place. The person who is chased is rarely the one who is missed, but the person who is fully immersed in their own life, who radiates confidence and purpose. This is the person who lingers in the minds of others long after they are gone. One of the most powerful things you can do is to remove yourself from a situation where you are not fully appreciated. When you refuse to settle for breadcrumbs, when you choose to step away rather than beg for attention, you send a message without saying a word. You communicate that you are not someone who waits around hoping to be chosen. You choose yourself first. And in doing so, you shift the dynamic entirely. People often do not realize what they have until it is gone. But this only applies when what was lost was truly valuable. If you were constantly available, constantly seeking approval, constantly bending to their needs while neglecting your own, then your absence will not create longing, it will create relief. But if you were someone who held their own, who brought depth, intelligence, humor, warmth, and passion into their life, then the moment you step back, the contrast will be undeniable. There is a quiet power in walking away, not as a strategy, but as a natural extension of self-respect. The person who is willing to leave is always the one who holds the most power, not because they are playing games, but because they understand their worth. They do not need to convince someone to miss them. Their value is self-evident. If you ever find yourself questioning whether someone misses you, shift the focus. Instead of dwelling on their perception of you, ask yourself, am I becoming the best version of myself? If the answer is yes, then it does not matter whether they miss you or not, because someone, somewhere, inevitably will. And more importantly, you will have built a life so fulfilling that you do not need that validation to feel whole. In the end, the goal should never be to make someone miss you. The goal should be to become someone so extraordinary, so deeply engaged with life, that whether or not a single person recognizes it is irrelevant. Because the paradox is this: when you reach that level of self-assurance, when you no longer need to be missed, that is precisely when people will feel your absence the most. When you send a message with the intention of making someone miss you, the words themselves are only part of the equation. What truly matters is the energy behind those words, the confidence, the detachment, and the sense of self-worth that permeates the interaction. People can feel desperation, even through a text message. They can sense when someone is seeking validation rather than simply expressing themselves. This is why the most powerful messages are not those that plead for attention, but those that subtly assert value. The key to making someone miss you is not found in over-explaining, convincing, or trying too hard. It is found in saying just enough to spark curiosity while maintaining a strong sense of independence. One of the most effective ways to do this is through brevity. A text that is too long, too emotional, or too eager immediately signals that you are investing more into the interaction than the other person. It tips the balance in a way that makes you look as though you are seeking their approval rather than simply sharing something from a place of confidence. Compare these two messages. I've been thinking a lot about us, and I just wanted to tell you that I really miss you. I hope you're doing okay. Versus, saw something today that reminded me of you. Hope you're doing well. The first message, while well-intentioned, places all the power in the hands of the recipient. It reveals too much too soon and offers no sense of detachment. The second message, however, creates curiosity without over-explaining. It acknowledges their presence in your thoughts without making it seem like you are waiting for their response. People are drawn to those who maintain an element of mystery. When everything is laid out on the table, when there is no room for the imagination, interest fades. This is true in relationships, in storytelling, and in all human interactions. A well-crafted text leaves gaps for the recipient to fill in. It does not satisfy all curiosity, it creates it. It does not hand over all emotional power, it subtly retains it. This is why messages that hint at something, rather than stating it outright, tend to linger in a person's mind. A simple, "you won't believe what I just saw," is far more engaging than a lengthy explanation. The former invites curiosity, while the latter eliminates it. But mystery alone is not enough. The underlying confidence behind the message must be genuine. If you are only holding back in an attempt to manipulate the other person's reaction, they will sense it. True confidence means knowing that regardless of whether they respond, regardless of whether they miss you or not, you remain centered in yourself. This is what makes absence powerful. It is not about withholding attention as a strategy, but about naturally being engaged in a life so full that you do not need to grasp for external validation. There is an undeniable difference between someone who texts out of boredom or loneliness and someone who texts as a natural extension of a meaningful life. The latter does not seek to fill a void, They simply share moments when they feel like it. They do not anxiously wait for a response. They send the message and move on. This energy is palpable. It changes the way the recipient perceives the interaction. When a message carries no pressure, no expectation, and no emotional weight that demands reciprocation, it is far more likely to evoke genuine curiosity and interest. Another powerful aspect of communication is unpredictability. When someone can predict exactly when you will reach out, exactly what you will say, and exactly how you will react, they stop anticipating. Humans are wired to respond to novelty. It is why people become addicted to unpredictable rewards, why variable reinforcement schedules are the foundation of behavioral psychology. If you always text first, if you always respond immediately, if your words are always predictable, you are reducing the element of intrigue that makes human connection compelling. The most effective messages are those that break a pattern, those that introduce a slight element of surprise. A message that comes unexpectedly at a time when they least expect it is far more likely to be noticed than one that follows a routine. But even more important than when you send a message is how you carry yourself between messages. If you send a confident, intriguing text, but spend the rest of your time dwelling on their response, you are still operating from a place of neediness. The true test of emotional power is your ability to send a message and then redirect your focus entirely. To go about your day, to remain engaged in your own passions, to not let the outcome of a single interaction determine your emotional state. This is where most people struggle. They put too much weight on a response, allowing their sense of worth to be dictated by whether or not someone engages with them. But the person who is truly missed is the one who does not make themselves overly available. People value what they have to work for. If your attention is too easy to obtain, if your words are given freely without any sense of selectiveness, then they lose their impact. The person who texts sparingly, but with purpose, is far more memorable than the one who constantly seeks engagement. This does not mean playing hard to get. It means genuinely valuing your own time and attention so much that you do not give it away without thought. When someone knows that your messages are not sent out of boredom, but from genuine interest, they carry far more weight. Ultimately, the most powerful way to make someone miss you is to embody the qualities that make you worth missing. Not through words alone, not through tactics, but through the way you carry yourself in every aspect of life. A message is only as powerful as the person sending it. If you are confident, engaged, and fully present in your own world, then any words you choose will naturally carry that energy. And that energy, more than anything else, is what lingers in a person's mind long after the message has been read. If you want someone to miss you, it is not about sending the perfect text, playing games, or seeking validation. It is about embodying a presence so valuable, so unique, that your absence creates an undeniable void. People do not long for those who begged for attention. They miss those who made a lasting impact, those who were confident, self-sufficient, and deeply engaged in their own lives. The most powerful message is not just in the words themselves, but in the energy behind them. When you speak from a place of strength, when you communicate without desperation, when you maintain an air of mystery and intrigue, you naturally create curiosity and desire. But this cannot be faked. True longing arises when someone recognizes that they have lost something irreplaceable. And that irreplaceability comes not from external tricks, but from who you are at your core. Instead of asking, how can I make him miss me? Ask yourself, how can I become someone so extraordinary that my absence is felt? When you focus on building a life that is rich, fulfilling, and driven by purpose, missing you becomes inevitable. Not because you forced it, but because you lived in a way that made your presence unforgettable.